To ensure a fair process, members of council are to hear public input but not to engage in debate about the merits of the application. Opinions on the application should not be made at this time. Members will have the opportunity to express all their views and concerns when the final staff report and recommendation comes forward. A subsequent public meeting will be held at a later date in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and public engagement will be welcome then as well. This meeting is conducted in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. All participants are asked to conduct themselves with decorum and respect and provide the opportunity for all members of the public to express their opinion in an environment of tolerance on all points of view and free of intimidation. The intent is to create a venue to encourage people to participate in the process and provide their input. With us this evening is Ryan Ferrari, A.J. Clark Associates Limited, and Kathy Turner, Community Living. Planning staff in attendance are Adam Gignac, Planner, and Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning. Tonight we will start with staff providing a brief presentation outlining the process and the application. Next, the applicant team will provide an overview of the proposal, and that will be followed by an opportunity for you to ask questions. If you have not already done so, please ensure that you have signed in so you'll be informed of future meetings on this proposal. As we navigate the open house meeting, we ask all participants for your patience. Each participant will be called in order and will be provided 10 minutes to speak. Each presenter may speak only once. If you hear your comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. All of the comments are being recorded and will be taken into consideration. When you are called, we ask that you state your name and address. Persons addressing council shall confine their remarks to the business at hand and shall direct their comments or questions to the chair. Staff are taking notes on all the questions asked this evening. At the end of the delegations, the applicant will be asked to respond to all the questions and comments raised. If you feel that your questions have not been responded to this evening, you can email our planning department at planning@grimsby.ca. Welcome, Adam, for your presentation. Good evening.
All right, everyone can hear me? Perfect. Katie, if you wouldn't mind putting up some slides, or my slides, please. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Gignac. I'm a planner with the town, and I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time to come and join us tonight for this open house. So tonight we'll be discussing applications for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 41 Livingston Avenue. So just to begin this open house, I will be going through a brief presentation, providing you all with the insights into the planning process for this application, and to briefly speak to the application itself, though I'm leaving most of that for the applicants. So following my presentation, we have Ryan Ferrari from A.J. Clark & Associates and Kathy Turner from Community Living, who will be here to provide some greater details about the application itself. And after the presentation, there'll be time to ask any questions or provide any comments or ask for any points of clarification that you may have about the application. Next slide, please. So again, just going over the purpose of the meeting tonight, we would like to provide you all with an overview of the planning process for these types of applications, being the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. So this includes the process of these applications from the beginning to the finish, and where we are in the process. An overview of the policy and regulatory framework will be provided, and the applicant team and myself is here to provide any additional details that you might have about the proposal and answer any questions that you may have and gather feedback. And this feedback will be taken into consideration and identify any potential revisions that may be required. Next slide, please. So why can plans or bylaws change? Under the Planning Act, authority is provided to submit applications for development plans that may or may not meet the current official plan or zoning bylaw. So in the case of this application, both the official plan and zoning bylaw requirements cannot be met. So both an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are required. So the town's role in this is to process these applications that come in. So these applications are only able to amend the official plan or zoning bylaw if it is determined that the proposed changes comply with the overall intent of the official plan and its policies and is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Next slide, please. So what you see before you right now is just a flow chart that outlines some of the major milestones of the planning process. So an application for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment begins with a pre-consultation meeting with town staff and any relevant agencies, and this can include, but is not limited to, the Niagara Escarpment Commission, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, the region of Niagara, etc. So this meeting outlines the requirements a potential applicant would need to submit an application for submission. So once an application is ready, the applicants would submit the required documents and fees to the town for the town to review for completion. And upon the application being deemed complete, a notice is sent out and agencies are asked for comments at this time. And the public is also able to provide comments at this time. And for this application, any documents or submissions related to the application is posted on the current planning applications page on the town's website. And notices for open houses and a future public meeting would also be posted at this location. So we are currently at the open house stage, which offers just a brief introduction of the application to all of you. So this open house is still near the beginning of the process, and it will be followed by a public meeting, which will provide some further opportunity for comments about the application. And along the way, some revisions may be made to the application to address any concerns from members of the public or any of the agencies that were circulated on the application. And after the public meeting, if all the concerns about the proposal are believed to have been met, staff will prepare a recommendation report for council regarding the application. And a decision on the application will be made at a future council meeting with the opportunity to appeal the decision afterwards. Next slide, please. So the planning process is an open process, so it allows members of the public to have a say. This open house provides just one of those opportunities to give your opinion on the application, with the public meeting being another avenue for this as well. You can also write a letter or email addressed to the planning department to provide comments. The email is planning@grimsby.ca. You can also send a copy of your letter or your email to your councilors as an alternative. Next slide. And to stay informed about this application, you are invited to provide your mailing address to the planning department. And by doing so, you would receive any notice of future meetings, information on how to obtain a staff report, information about speaking in front of the committee of the whole, and information on how a decision on the application can be appealed. Next slide, please. So what you see before you is the concept plan that was submitted as a part of the application submission requirements. So this slide just shows a concept plan. The proposed structure is 2.5 stories in height, containing 5 assisted living residential units with some additional uses on the main floor, and information on, with associated parking, 9 total spaces in the rear. And I'll leave most of the details to the applicants. Next slide, please. Yeah, I guess it's not showing up. I can read it off though. Nope, no problem. To begin with the official plan amendment, when evaluating applications for an official plan amendment, there are numerous policies that are considered. So under section 1.4.3 of the official plan, it is intended that the official plan may only be amended with substantial evidence to justify such an amendment based on good planning. So to determine whether an amendment is appropriate, regard shall be had to numerous sections of the official plan, including section 2.0, which is the vision and municipal structures, goals, and objectives. Land use categories in section 3. So this case particular, the low density residential and medium density residential designations, and some of the implementation policies found in section 9.0, among other policies in the official plan. So the official plan currently designates 41 Livingston Avenue as a low-density residential area. So the policies for this designation are located in section 3.4.2 of the official plan. This designation permits a mixture of residential uses, including single detached and semi-detached dwellings, as well as community facilities. It's considered a stable residential neighborhood, but does allow for limited development, evolution, and rejuvenation. So the proposal aims to redesignate the subject lands to medium-density residential area with some further modifications. So the policies for this designation are in the following section, section 3.4.3 of the official plan. So this designation permits, again, a variety of uses, including townhomes and other forms of multiple unit ground-related housing, low-rise apartments, and group homes. Next slide, please. And just to conclude with the current zoning and proposed zoning, the current zoning on the property is residential detached 2, RD2 25, and the 25 represents the maximum lot coverage permitted. Site-specific policy 183 is also in effect on the subject site, which permits an educational resource center and some site-specific modifications. The existing zoning is proposed to be amended to residential multiple 1, with some additional site-specific provisions. These provisions are to permit, again, the Education Resource Center on the ground floor, and to have modifications for the parking requirements, accessible parking stall size, the maximum number of units in a group home, the ground floor height, and the minimum interior side yard. And as part of this process, the applicants are wishing for the existing site-specific policy, 183, to be repealed. And thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Up next, we'll have Ryan Ferrari and Kathy Turner. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I believe staff have my slide deck that I prepared. If you could just pull that up. Perfect, thank you. So good evening, everyone, mayor, councilors, members of the public, and for those listening in tonight. My name is Ryan Ferrari. I'm a registered professional planner with AJ Clark & Associates. I also have with me tonight Kathy Turner, who's the executive director of Community Living Grimsby, Lincoln, and West Lincoln. Next slide, please. So I want to begin tonight just talking a little bit about the neighborhood that we're in. The subject lands are located approximately in that yellow area. Just at a big picture here, we have a commercial plaza just to the north of the subject lands, a residential neighborhood to the south with a high school, and to the west and east are additional residential uses, a mix of low density and medium density residential uses. Next slide, please. This slide just shows the subject lands again, 41 Livingston. The site as it exists today. Again, you see sort of the low rise to the east of the subject lands. I do want to make note for those in attendance that just to the west of the subject lands are some existing multiple dwellings. I believe there's a 5-unit multiple dwelling across the street, and I believe to be a duplex across the street as well. Next slide, please. So just talking a little bit about what exists on the subject lands today. So today there's a 1-story, the former dwelling that was converted for the purposes of community living to use as an educational resource center. This was done in approximately 2000. This slide, I just wanted to show just a little bit of the context of the site and how it operates today. And I think one last comment I will make is really the intent of the applications that we've submitted to the city to this point are effectively to continue this educational resource center use, but effectively add 2 more stories to operate residential units above. And myself and Kathy will go into a little bit more detail about what those uses are. Next slide, please. So going back to a little bit of the planning context, Adam provided some context for the folks here today. But today, the subject lands are considered low density in the Grimsby official plan, and the existing zoning bylaw doesn't permit the uses that we're seeking, which are effectively assisted living units above accessory offices and accessory recreational space for the folks living there. So next slide. So on the right, just quickly, we'll see an elevation. That would be the proposed building as you would see it from Livingston Avenue. So facing, I guess that would be south on the subject property. And to the left there, we're just highlighting the amendments we're seeking. So we're seeking to amend the subject lands to a medium-density residential designation, medium-density residential designation. And for our zoning bylaw amendment, we're looking to continue with that educational resource center use and provide independent living units on the second and third floor. Next slide, please. So again, we still have that same elevation from Livingston Avenue, just providing some site stats for those in attendance. So we consider it to be a 2.5, 3-story building. It's 9.4 meters in height. On the ground floor, and I'll take you through the floor plans in just a minute here. On the ground floor, we're going to have some small office space for the benefit of community living, some recreational space for the benefit of the people who hopefully live there. We also propose a private outdoor amenity area, and as Adam said earlier, we were going to propose 9 parking spaces. Next slide, please. So this is just showing our site plan. I've tilted it just so it was just a little bit easier to read. So on the left side of this picture, you'll see Livingston Avenue. On the south is Kidd Avenue. We load our 9 parking spaces towards the rear, which is similar to sort of what exists today. You also see in the gray there's the proposed building. And just to the south of that, we propose the sort of outdoor courtyard that's intended to be fenced in for private amenity for the residents that are there. I will make note of 2 interesting things on this site plan. On the far west, I guess it would be on the left side of this site plan, we did account for a 3-meter roll widening. This is required by the region. And that big triangle that you see there is a 10 by 10 visibility triangle. So the reason just why I'm bringing those up is this dwelling is sort of sited in accordance with those road widenings that we're required to give to the region. So that's why it's sited where it is. We feel it's just the best location on the site given the constraints we have in these road widenings. So next slide, please. So I'll take you now a little bit through the elevations, and I'll do my best to describe what way we're facing here. So on the left elevation, that is what you would see if you were standing in the parking lot looking at the building. On the right is the elevation from Kidd Avenue. One thing I want to note for those in attendance and the mayor and councilors here is the way we're sort of intending to design this building is to make it look like it's just another house. And you'll note on the left elevation there's that large sloping roof. There's good reasons for that. Just to the east of us is a low-density residential dwelling. So what we really want to do on that side is really minimize the appearance of this dwelling from that perspective and sort of load all the I'll call it the height at Kidd Street. Next slide, please. So just the final 2 elevations here, the one on the left I've shown you a couple times now, so that's what it's going to look like from Livingston Avenue. And on the right there, that's the elevation as it would face the low-density residential to the east of us. Next slide, please. So now I just want to talk a little bit about what is going to go in this building. So this building is going to have a basement, 2 floors, and I'll call it an attic story on the 3rd floor. So I'll describe sort of what the intent of each floor is. On the left is the basement plan. I want everyone to note here that most of this dwelling, and this kind of owes to the bulk of the dwelling, we're intending to make this dwelling AODA accessible. And to do that, we need 2 exit stairs. We also need an elevator. So much of what the basement is used for really is mechanical and incidental to sort of support this dwelling that we're proposing. And on the left side of the basement is just rec room space for daily activities that may take place in this proposed use. On the right is a floor plan of the ground floor. On the very left of the right floor plan here, you'll see what is intended to be the outdoor living area. And on the inside, we have some incidental offices, the elevator, the 2 stairwells. And we also have a kitchen, a communal kitchen. The intent for this kitchen is for the use of the residents. But if we go to the next slide, this next slide is showing floors 2 and 3. So what we have on the 2nd floor are 3 independent living units. And on the 3rd floor, we're going to have 2 independent living units. So I'm going to stop now and sort of talk about what the intent of these units are. What these units are for folks that live with intellectual disabilities. However, The intent for these units is to operate sort of as a self-contained unit, so it almost operates like a small apartment. You'll have, again, fully AOD accessible, you get a bed, you get a small kitchenette, you get a bathroom. So this isn't necessarily a communal living facility. All the, I'll say, amenities for the specific person living in the unit are indeed there. However, on the ground floor, we sort of have those supportive options for those who need them. I think the last point I make, there is a laundry space, so that is one communal aspect of what is proposed. But I think I just want to provide a little bit of clarity for those in attendance is these units effectively are supposed to act like apartment units, although they are for those living with intellectual disabilities under the support of community living. Next slide, please. So I'll just talk a little bit about some of the proposed specific amendments we're seeking, and I have a site plan to accompany this that I can show you after. But at a high level here, we're looking for a use to allow these assisted living units, 5 of them total, on the 2nd and 3rd floor. In addition to this, we're going to need a variance to the zoning bylaw to allow for 9 parking spaces. There is some thinking behind this. So we have 5 residential units in this building. Normally, the bylaw would say you need 1.25 parking spaces per residential unit. It's very, very unlikely that the folks living here are going to be driving, right? So the thinking is the 9 parking spaces is just for visitors, so the 0.25 per unit, which equals to 2, and then 7 spaces sort of for staff that might be coming or going to support the ground floor. And then again, if you go to the next slide, I'll just speak really quickly. Highlighted in red there is we're going to need a variance to the interior side yard setback. I believe the setback that's shown there is just north of 2 meters, and that represents a pinch point because our property isn't perfectly perpendicular. So that's why we're asking for those variances. Next slide, please. And just to leave those folks today, we did bring a rendering that staff requested. I think the only thing I'll just say about this is not a final rendering, but we want to sort of put forward the fact that even though this building is going to be used by community living for folks that are there that need housing with supports in the city of Grimsby, we want this to look like it's just another house in the neighborhood so that it complements what's already there. And I think with that, Mayor, members of council, those in attendance, I'm more than happy to answer any other questions if there are any or provide any clarifications. But I understand Kathy will be speaking next. Maybe we can discuss after that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ryan. Up next, Kathy, welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about what we do at Community Living and what this building would be intended for. So at Community Living, we offer a number of services. Only one of them is what we call supported independent living. And so while this building is sort of listed as a group home, it's actually not what we call a group home. What we call a group home is where we live 24/7 with the individuals who live in their own homes. What this house would be is supported independent living, which means those individuals live independently in their apartment, and then we support them in many different ways. So sometimes it's visits for just a couple of hours each day or each week, and sometimes it's a number of hours each day, sometimes a full day each week. So it depends on the individual's needs. The second and the first floor and the basement will have group space that we can use for programming. So currently what the house is there for is programming at offices. So some programming would still continue there, which means we do things that are supportive to whatever the individuals enjoy doing. We might run programs that they like right there in that building. Otherwise, they'll be out in the community and doing their own thing, living their own lives just like everyone else. So I'm not sure what other supportive information I can share with you. There are a number of other services that we offer at Community Living, and our staff, many of whom are here tonight, come and go in that building and in any of the other locations that we offer supports for. Anything else that I need to be making sure I share? Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Up next, we have our resident portions. First resident, Dave Belisle.
He's on Zoom. I'm just waiting.
He's on Zoom?
Yeah, I'm just waiting
All right.
to.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Hello, Dave.
Yep.
Dave, are you listening in on another laptop or another device?
Yeah, I am. Just trying to shut it off.
There's a little bit of feedback, that's all.
Sorry, I had technical issues, so I started another device and it was still on. Thanks very much for the presentation. I was a little concerned the elevation seems different than the rendering that was shown. It would be great to see an up-to-date rendering if possible. I guess the volume from the Kidd Avenue side seemed a little bit different. Apologies, I haven't done this before. I should introduce myself. My name is Dave Belisle. I live at 4 Kidd Avenue, and we love our neighborhood, and it's been a fantastic experience living here in Grimsby for the past almost 10 years. And it's great to have the center at the end of the road. Sorry, I'll start my video. My technology is not fantastic. Apologies for that. I was just a little bit concerned. The intersection's been a little bit dangerous, and we're talking about increasing density. And then there was also the mention about the setback and the concerns with the triangle there for visibility going around the corner. We've had some concerns walking our kids to school and some near misses, and there was unfortunately an incident even today that was quite serious. So I guess I'm interested in knowing if there was any consideration for traffic calming or accommodation of increased density and vehicular traffic in the area. I was a little bit concerned that the elevation didn't seem consistent with the rendering, but those are the sort of 2 main points for me. So thanks very much, and apologies for the technical issues.
Thank you, Dave. Up next, we have Amy Lacasse.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just here as an observer. I wasn't able to make it in person, so I don't really have any questions. I actually am a staff member of Community Living, so I just wanted to watch the presentation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Now I'll open up to anyone in attendance that wants to make a comment. They can go up to the podium. Yes? Just state your name and address when you're at the podium. Thank you.
My name is Erin. I'm the supervisor of the Support Independent Living. I just want to draw attention to, because our concern too with the crossing, the intersection there. This is a little off topic, but since it was brought up, we park right now where the gas station is, the Canadian Tire gas station. The crosswalk has always been an issue. We had probably up towards, I would say, 20 to 25 people coming and going from our resource center pre-COVID. I know that because I ran the programs at the time, and the traffic was always, so that being brought up, I think it's a big concern, not only if the new build is there, but right now, I almost got hit twice last week. And part of the training for our new staff is always, if you're coming and going to Livingston, is to turn your body and make eye contact with that person that's turning left. It is a danger zone. So I'm just taking advantage of the opportunity to make that mention.
Thank you. Any other resident? All right, go ahead, come on up.
I've never been to one of these before, so I'm a little nervous. I just had a question because our son,
just say your name.
Mary Smith.
Yes.
Park Road.
Thanks, Mary.
Our son is in Community Living. I just had a question. I don't know how relevant it is, but our son already lives in an apartment building on Kidd Avenue. He's with Community Living, and he lives there. So the fact that there's already a building there which is, he's on the top floor. Is that an advantage, or is that going to make it harder, the fact that there's already a building there that kind of ties in with the size of what we're talking about? So that was my question. Thank you.
Perhaps Kathy, you could answer that? Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So I can just say that supported independent living is a program that we would love to grow in our community living in our region. And right now we are really we don't have any ability to provide any accommodated housing. So this provides us a little bit of the ability to grow in that service. At this point, we are accepting individuals off of the Developmental Services Ontario wait list if they come with their own accommodation. So if we're able to build this building, then we're able to say we can take 5 more individuals in without having to bring their own accommodation along with them. So I don't know if that answers.
Can I ask a question? So Kathy, I just meant from a building point of view, from a planning point of view. I understand the need for the program, but because there's already a building there, I'm asking from a planning point of view from the town of Grimsby, is it going to make it easier to put a bigger building there because there's already one?
I see. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer a planning question.
But there's already a building medium density already.
Adam?
Hi, Mary. Just to answer your question, from a more planning perspective, one thing that we do when we consider these types of applications is to take some of the neighboring area into account. So that includes the things like the existing uses and as far as like the buildings, the existing sizes of them. So it's something that is a consideration. If there are similar types of building sizes, then yeah, that is something that may improve on odds, or in the case if there isn't, decrease the odds of being successful. If that, I mean, if there's uses and sizes of buildings that are similar, yes, it would.
All right, are there any further speakers from the floor? Seeing none, thank you for your participation in the open house. The consultants and staff will take back your feedback. Please contact staff at planning@grimsby.ca if you have any additional comments or questions about the proposal after this evening. You're not supposed to, so, but if you want to. All right, Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. I know I'm not supposed to make comments, but I have some questions. One, how many staff are there during the day? Yeah, feel free to. No, but just sort of on a regular, go ahead, sorry, I'm not. Because I've got a couple questions that you can answer.
For the current position?
Yeah, like right now, or if this thing were to come to fruition, okay. How many staff would be there on a day-to-day basis? Because you say you're running programs as well as this.
Yeah.
Residential.
Likely about 10 individuals, but it really will depend very much on the individuals who come to live there.
Okay, and I know someone mentioned that, do you also have parking across the street that you've negotiated, or?
Is the parking across the street negotiated, or is it just because it's public parking and that's where you park because there's no other spots?
Right.
Okay. When you have day programs, how many people usually attend those programs?
So pre-COVID, it would have been very different. In the proposed new, we are growing toward keeping programs quite small, about 4 to 6 individuals.
Okay. Is it free to live there?
No, but the individuals who we invite to service have ODSP funding, and we process and support and subsidize the housing.
Okay. And would Grimsby residents get preferential access to this building, considering it's being built in Grimsby?
How the Developmental Services Ontario works is they go by need, so they prioritize individuals by need who want to live in the Niagara region. So not necessarily, but quite possibly. It depends on how they are prioritized on their list.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Barty. Councillor Corstanzi.
Thank you. Mine actually for Kathy as well, too. What's the current wait list for the housing right now in Grimsby?
It's actually not possible for us to tell you that because we don't hold the wait list.
Okay.
It's with Developmental Services Ontario, and they just send us individuals when we tell them we have a vacancy.
Okay. Will there be somebody on staff there 24 hours?
No.
Okay, so it's pretty much really independent living?
Yeah.
Other than through the day when you're running your programs, but at nighttime there wouldn't be anybody there?
Yeah, there will be the opportunity to do that. There will be there's a staffing room there that will have like a Murphy bed for required needs. Sometimes when people transition in, they might need more supports for a little period of time, or they might have, a health need that requires that we need to provide more supports for a period of time. The intention of independent living is independent living. No one would be living there along with them.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions or comments, again, thank you for your participation in the open house. The consultants and staff will take back your feedback. Please contact staff at planning@grimsby.ca if you have any additional comments or questions about the proposal after this evening. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.